Hey everybody, it's Chad. Nobody else is on. 7 o'clock Sunday evening, time for Sunday night live chat. We are live on two formats, both YouTube and Facebook. We'll give everybody a few seconds to get their notifications and know that we are active and ready to go and get rolling here shortly. Bill's on with us already. Thanks for stopping back, Bill. And I think Facebook is up in theory. My whole screen just flashed white and then it came back. So I hope Facebook is working. The timer's working, so I guess that's something. But looks like we've got maybe a few people starting to get on Facebook, but I'm not really sure what just happened on Facebook because it just kind of went everything white there for a few seconds. So anyway, I'm ready to go. We'll give everybody a few seconds. We'll get rolling here in a little bit as people start getting on. So as always, thanks for swinging back by. We've got some people jumping on YouTube, looks like. So glad you guys made it tonight. Some cool things to talk about tonight, as always. Mark from Maine's on Facebook, so something is happening on Facebook. Hopefully that something means it's going to cooperate and work. But anyway, it is what it is. We got to bear with the system and do what we can. Lee from New York's on YouTube. Thanks for being here, guys. Been kind of a crazy trying to get things caught up and done. Randall from California is on YouTube, so looks like we've got a few people starting to get on Facebook, but not as many as we typically do. So hopefully that keeps rolling. Yes, number one, that is a door push. I've actually got a couple of those, and they're great pieces. I love them. With the loaf on them. I've got just the regular ones as well that just say rainbow across them. I've got actually two of the actual loaves, so those are really cool. I do like them. Mike from Vermont's on. Glad you guys all made it. Looks like we've got a few people starting to get on with us, get their notifications, and jumping on. Anyway, my dad's on Facebook. Dan from Defiance is on. Glad you made it back, Dan. And what's been going on? Try to keep an eye on both formats for comments. Kevin's on. Number one, any Pepsi door pushes for sale? I don't have any Pepsi door pushes at all. In fact, most of my door pushes that I do have are rainbow. Brandon's on with us. Still getting an error message on Facebook, but hopefully it'll keep cooperating. So anyway, we'll go ahead and get rolling. We've got some people going on. Everybody should be getting their notifications that we're live and we're ready to get into tonight. So what's been happening? Probably the most interesting thing this weekend was Mecum Dallas. I went through some of those results today. Looked like they had a good solid sale. As always, or at least for the last year, as we've talked about auctions, everything has been really, really solid. For the most part, that's what it appeared to be in Dallas as well this weekend. You go through all the results, you're going to see a few things that make you scratch your head, but overall, everything looked pretty solid. Some of the more interesting things that stood out to me as I was going through some of the results, some good, some bad, I guess. 69 Copo 427 Camaro sold at $200,000, but it was a 3,000 mile car that was supposedly completely never been touched, completely original. So Wolfgang from Illinois is on with us. Randy from Ohio is here. Glad you guys made it. Thanks for stopping by tonight. Something else that kind of stood out to me, like I said, I just kind of flipped through the results looking for interesting things. 1957 Dodge Coronet D500. Now, if you're not familiar with the D500 back in the mid-50s, that was the performance Dodge. It was the hot Dodge. They never made very many of them. So it's pretty interesting when you see a D500 pop up. Big Job made it tonight. Glad you made it, Big Job. So that was a really unique car. So, two-door hardtop, D500 package. Now, the only thing I'm not sure about on D500s is if they can actually be documented as a D500 car, or if people just added stuff to it and called it a D500. But it was advertised as a D500 performance model. Sold at $27,500. I thought that looked pretty reasonable if that was a real D500 in that condition. Robert's on with us. Glad you made it, Robert. Thomas, 37 Chevy truck hood ornament. I do not have a hood ornament. And front lower grill molding. No, I do not have either one of those pieces for. In fact, I don't have any grill stuff left at all for a 37 Chevy truck. So the D500 was definitely something kind of interesting that stood out to me. Ellen, North Carolina's here. Like the Camaro video. Glad you made it. Lance is on with us as well. What else was interesting? There was another car that caught my eye that I'm not 100% sure that I liked. And I like a lot of cars, and I do like these cars. I'm not sure I liked what was done to this. 2019 Hellcat Red Eye convertible. And I'm not 100% sure I really liked that car. It was interesting. They said they made 3 of them. A conversion company made them. It did sell at at 119,000 or 115,000. But just I don't know. I mean, I like Hellcats. I really do. Love the Red Eyes. Love Demons. But I just couldn't bite on the Red Eye convertible. Lum's on with us. What's up, man? Glad you made it tonight, Lum. Jerry's on with us. In fact, Lum, call me sometime. I got something I need to ask you. So if you get a second, give me a shout sometime. What else happened? Oh, 54 Roadmaster convertible. Obviously a big Buick fan. If you've caught some of the videos we did for my dad's place before I moved those cars in, you'll know that I basically cut my teeth on this industry on 40s and 50s Buicks. They did have a 54 Roadmaster convertible go through, sold at 57.2. That's what Robert says. A Hellcat convertible, that body's going to have some flex. Yeah, and that's what I don't know what they had to do to make it a convertible. And it was a Red Eye. It was even a Red Eye convertible. So that is an awful lot of power for a car that's had the roof cut off of it. Chris is on with us. Glad you made it. Old School's here. And he spent 9 hours in the hospital. So he had a really tough weekend. But he made it back tonight to hang out with us. So that's great. What else? Some of the other stuff that looks strong. 79 Trans Am 10th anniversary. Obviously, you guys been hanging out with me on here. You know I like Trans Ams. 79 10th anniversary car, 27,000 miles. So it was a nice car, but 52.8, which I thought was pretty strong money for one of those for a 30,000 mile car. Chris is on with us on Facebook. Glad you made it. Something else that was definitely in the different category that I really liked parts of, but some of it I really didn't like. 78 Dodge Super Cab or 1-ton dually with a Hellcat drivetrain. Great concept. The truck was all white, completely whited out with one big wide solid blue stripe down the center, which I don't think helped it that much personally. And then it had some of those big, huge tire and wheel packages and looked like it was on bags sitting on the ground. So that I wasn't. I love the concept, but some of the ways that they built it, well, I wasn't a big fan of. But it was a cool truck. Sold for $49,500. So you absolutely could not have built it for that. Even if you wanted to tweak some things when you got done, it would have been impossible to build that. Let's see. Loch Ness Fox is on with us. Let's see. Okay, I'm caught up. I'm caught up. Yeah, everybody's feeling Old School's pain over there. Like Robert says, late 70s personal luxury. There was some of that. I didn't note any of it in these notes. That stuff's obviously starting to creep up, but I didn't pick any of those out specifically for tonight's chat. Something else that was kind of different. A 2016 Ford Excursion 6-door. And I know a lot of people think, they don't make Excursions anymore. And you're right, they don't. However, there is a company out there, and the reason I know this is somebody picked up a car that I was shipping out here a year or two ago, and they had a brand new Excursion on the transport. And it was literally a new Excursion. I was like, what is that? And this was, a year or two ago. It was a 2018, 2019 Excursion. And what they do is they take the old 01, 02 Excursions, and then they buy a brand new Super Duty pickup, and they yank all the guts out of the pickup and put the Excursion body on the pickup. So you've got new running gear, new interior. They redo the third row seat in the Excursion to match the new interior, et cetera, et cetera. This was a 2016 6-door Excursion King Ranch. Quite a bit of work to not only convert this thing, but then stretch it into 6 doors. But what I didn't understand is King Ranch interior, all leather, super, super nice looking build. And then they rhino lined the whole body. And that I didn't quite understand either. It sold for $121,000. James is back on with us. Old School. Tim showed some vans in his last video. I haven't seen any of Tim's videos in lately, so I'm not sure on that. Dad said, I see the 69 Camaro. I've seen several of them. I don't remember. We talked about the Copo cars, the only one that I thought that I noted. But I didn't write all the rest of them down. Any 60 El Camino trim? Nothing there. No, I did. Oh, Dad just brought one up. I did not see it. I remember seeing this car in Hot Rod. 69 Camaro with a Corvair top and a 409 motor. I remember seeing that car. I did not realize it went through the auction this weekend. But it was in Hot Rod where they took a 69 Camaro, used a Corvair roof, put a 409 in it, and kind of tried to blend a 61 Impala and a 69 Camaro. I do remember seeing that car. I did not see it at the auction or in the auction results. Looked like a very, 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 very well done build, but definitely not my style, trying to blend the 61 Impala and the 69 Camaro. Chris says a place in Spencerville, Ohio does the 6-door conversions. So if you're in the market for a 6-door excursion, Spencerville, Ohio is apparently where they're built. So like I said, I just didn't understand to do a truck to that extent and then rhino line the entire body. So, but that again, that's my personal preference. 57 Eldorado convertible, always a strong car. 220,000, which there again is good money for that. But those are rare cars too. Was the bed liner in the excursion? It was blue. It was a blue rhino lining. So Rico and Jess made it tonight. So glad you guys are all here. Big Job says that'll be a nightmare down the road rhino line. Yeah, well, that's what they did. I didn't understand it. Definitely not my taste, but that's part of this hobby. Everybody has different ideas. Austin, I'd like to see a TRX drivetrain in an 80s Ram Charger or a new Ram Charger. That would be a cool idea too. So, and he's over here because of the Ram Charger video. We're glad you made it, Austin. Welcome. Join us every Sunday night. We do this every Sunday evening. So, but that is a good idea. Doing something like that with those Ram Chargers because those things are getting super popular. Speaking of SUVs and pickups, obviously in Dallas, Texas, they were strong as usual. James, I remember people talking about the excursions about how bad fuel mileage was. Yeah, they were huge. There's no doubt about it. And they didn't get didn't get great mileage because they were big and heavy. But there was, a couple of 40, a lot of 48 to 53 Chevy pickups and a lot of strong ones, 50, 60, 70,000 for nice builds. Some of the other stuff that did stand out, 94 Chevy pickup, swapped 5.3, just a really slick, clean little 94 Chevy pickup, which obviously we know they're popular. We know they're coming up. This truck brought $29,150. So 29 grand for a 94 Chevy pickup. And I think it was a step side, 2-wheel drive, regular cab, just a clean little pickup, 5.3 LS swap, nothing exotic, just a really slick pickup, 29 grand for a 94 Chevy. So they, like I said, they're definitely, that 88 to 98 style is definitely starting to come on. Number one, saw a Toyota Taco completely rhino line with a topper. That was probably interesting. Ellen, North Carolina, didn't the excursions come with a V10? Excursions were available either way, V10 or Power Stroke diesel. Those were your only two options. I don't think they were available with a 5.4. I think it was either V10 or Power Stroke because they were so big and so heavy. 73 to 79 Ford 8-foot bed floors. Drew, the only thing I've probably got some floors. I've got a pretty good bed that just needs a right bedside is the best bed that I've got. But I've probably got some other beds. I've got another bed that I think has a good floor but needs both bedsides. So that might be a possibility as well. If you want to give me a shout tomorrow, we can get into some more details on that. Number one, nostalgia can pay off if more than one guy can reimagine his youth at auction. And that's 100% correct. That's exactly what it amounts to. So those are some of the things that stood out for me personally as I skimmed some of the Mecum Dallas results. Go to mecum.com. Be sure to check that out and flip through what happened this weekend. Obviously, the market, like we said, for the last year, every time we talk about auctions, it's been strong. Everything's been strong. How long is it going to last? I don't know. I don't see it backing off any this year yet with what's left yet this year. However, I am real curious as to what may or may not happen next year. So we'll see how things go. So far, the market's still boogieing along. A lot of cool things happen. A lot of cool stuff changing hands, and definitely worth checking out and seeing all the cool stuff that went through Dallas this weekend. Next thing I was going to talk about, our next topic for the evening, this is kind of fun. Found this on Haggerty. Haggerty actually posted this on Facebook, so if you're a Haggerty follower on Facebook, you may have seen this. I went ahead and printed the article so we could go through some of it. The article was called Come On Down, because The Price is Right. 7 cars that made The Price is Right showcase sparkle. Now, Price is Right has been around for as long as I can remember. And after I read this article, I knew why. It first started airing in 1972, so I was born in 74. So obviously when I was a kid, I always remember seeing The Price is Right popping up. But and they always gave away cars. So I thought this was a very appealing article to me. So I went in and printed it, thought we'd skim it, talk about some of the cool things they had there. Chris, did I go to Auburn? No, I did not go to Auburn last weekend. We talked about it a lot on here, but I didn't make it. But obviously, if The Price is Right has become kind of a staple, over the last 50 years almost. And most of us are pretty familiar with it, and most of us have seen them give away cars. So that's what really made this interesting to me. John, will I be at the swap meet at Mid-America Drag Strip next month? I'm going to try to be. I've got that's the week after the auction, or the following weekend collector auto auction. So my plans are to try to go. I can't guarantee it, but I definitely do want to try to go to Arc City for that one. Vixon on Facebook. I hope Facebook is hanging in there. Our numbers are kind of fluctuating, and our comments are not real consistent as they typically have been for Facebook. So I'm hoping everybody on Facebook is still hanging in there. But let's talk about some of the Price is Right highlights as picked by Haggerty. And like I said, you can go to Haggerty's Facebook page and check out this whole article and see some of the color pictures. But obviously, TV game show started in the 50s. Price is Right first started airing in 72, and they've ran over 9,000 episodes. So definitely a heck of a run. But giving away cars has always been a big deal. D-Man, soon as the chips flow in for the 2021 truck sitting on lots, it'll flood the market, and the 22s will be out, so the 21s should be cheaper, hopefully. And that's possible, but there's so much of a pent-up demand. I don't think they're going to get real cheap yet. It's just going to be. It would be nice if the chip situation would level off, so things can start getting somewhat back to normal in the car world. But this really talks about all the ways they highlighted it, the ways they described it. And some of these vehicles weren't that exciting, but they could really hype them up. And that's what it talks about. They took, sometimes mundane vehicles and gave them the star treatment. And that's what was really cool about this article. And when you look back, and like a lot of what we do on here, we look back with 2020 hindsight at what things were like back then. The first vehicle mentioned in this article was the original crossover utility, the AMC Eagle. The one they had picked out was a coupe edition with a padded Landau roof, button-tufted leather seats, AM/FM cassette player, and gorgeous caramel brown paint. So they really hyped it up. One thing that, and I do remember this, and I remember this still from when they would announce this when I was a kid. These all came. This was shot in California, and I remember them announcing this when they talked about them. All these vehicles came with California emissions. So it talked about the AMC Eagle they gave away in '82. Said this episode aired December of 1982, and Johnny Olson, the announcer, announced it's a terrific prize worth $11,036 on the AMC Eagle. The next one they brought up, and they just got a handful of them. D-Man got his Hutmobile Grill Show. We're going to talk about that here in a minute. D-Man, I've got you down when we get up to the trivia and raffle part of the show, so we're going to talk about that too, but I'm glad you liked it. The next one they talked about, the Chevrolet Blazer, which aired in June of 1977, where one lucky contestant could win one with a fabric top and white steel wheels and bumpers. The announcer said it's a rough and rugged sportsman vehicle, and the optional four-wheel drive and automatic transmission made that a reality. Let's see. I'm not sure, number one, what the extra $36 got you. Maybe that was the California emissions. I'm not sure. Kevin says Bob Barker was an icon. Yes, he was. That's for sure. The next vehicle they talked about in this article that they gave away on The Price is Right, the hottest performance of the era in January of 1983, the 1983 Firebird Trans Am. The announcer called it handsome, is the way they described it, obviously with references to Knight Rider and David Hasselhoff in the article. So David W. is on. Let's see. Well, Bill says number one, the Landau top. That could be it. And Cameron says it was not the emissions. So. Another car they had listed in this that they found in some of the old footage, and I thought this one was really great. This was up for grabs March of 1984. One of the turbocharged Chrysler products, the Dodge Shelby Charger. These were really neat little cars. And this one was, of course, an automatic with, of course, California emissions. This was the silver with blue stripe package. These were neat little cars. They're super hard to find now. And I always thought they really stood out back when Shelby was actually aligned with Chrysler. And they really came out with some neat stuff. The GLH Omni, the little Shelbys, did a lot of cool stuff. And obviously Carroll's involvement with the original Viper concept. And obviously I'm a big Viper guy. That the Viper was designed and with Carroll Shelby's input to be a modern day Cobra. That's why the first ones didn't even have windows, because you didn't need them. It was a race car. They didn't care. So, that Shelby era with Chrysler in the 80s, when there wasn't a lot of performance out there, was really a neat window for a lot of that stuff. And those cars are tough to find. So it was really cool that they brought that one up in the article as well. Cameron says he found an ad for one at his school. So, yeah, they're neat cars. They really are. Robert, the Price is Right cars were usually stripped down or strangely optioned. And that could be true. They could have been, some of them were probably sales bank cars or stuff that got ordered that they couldn't sell, or, somebody ordered something and backed out and somebody got stuck with it. That's probably where some of that stuff, truth be known, that's probably where a lot of that stuff came from. Is we can't sell it, so let's put it on TV and give it away. The next car was kind of interesting for the time. Supercar giveaways aren't normal on game shows, but when the C4 came out in 84, they actually did have one of those on The Price is Right as well. But once again, a more base car, did not have the heavy-duty handling package. It was an automatic. It was a nice driver car that you would want to win on a game show. But there again, even to see something like that, you wouldn't see a new mid-engine Corvette today on a game show, I doubt. So kind of cool that, that they actually even did that back in the day. The next one was super awesome because we're going to back up to May of 1977 for this vehicle. Let's see. Brandon, give away a four-door Hudson. Number one, I think they got advertising dollars equal to the MSRP. And that could be true, number one. That could very easily be what that meant is, you give us a car, we give you X amount of advertising dollars to equate to that, what that vehicle is worth on manufacturer suggested retail price. But anyway, when we back up to an episode from May of 1977, they see, yeah, D-Man says it would be a Prius now. That's probably true. A customized Dodge van that was customized by Leisure and Recreational Products. The van was named Andromeda, and it offered all the conveniences of home, including burr accenting, horseshoe lounge area, mirrored ceiling, sink, water supply, icebox, bed, swivel bucket seats, AM/FM 8-track, custom paint, mag wheels, and air conditioning. The author of this article says, my guess is this black on silver Dodge van still gets people screaming with delight because you must always respect the van. Now, you need to go to Haggerty and check out the color pictures on this because I just printed the article, but there it is. And the thing is epic. It's an awesome van. So I'm sure that people were really super excited, whoever won that thing in 1977. Let's see, Bill. Yeah, they'd be a tax write-off or get the advertising out of it. Number one explains the Yugo Media Blitz. Let's see. Old school Andromeda in Greek mythology, beautiful daughter of King Cepheus and Queen Cassiope of Joppa. So that's Andromeda was in Greek mythology. So there is still super cool. Brandon likes the van. Cameron says, yeah, you can't hardly win old shoes from game shows. And yeah, compared to winning a sweet custom van, that's for sure. Robert recently saw a Price is Right clip with an 81 Coupe de Ville with base wheel covers and a diesel. But there again, they were really trying to push those diesels at that in that era of GM. So I could see putting one of them on TV to give it away for sure. The last car in the article, like I said, Haggerty on Facebook is where I found this. You can go check out all the color pictures. They don't have a ton of pictures. They've only got to pick one picture of each vehicle. So it's not like a photo gallery, but this one was kind of interesting. The 1983 Continental. And it says they technically did not call them a Lincoln Continental in 83 because they were trying to make them kind of its own brand. But this one was on the air in December of 83, and it was a hard-loaded car. And, on the Fox body platform, and, of course, with California. Wrapped the article up with it, and, of course, it had California emissions on it as well. So let's see. Number one says, don't listen to old school. He's had too many drugs from being in the hospital with his kidney stones. So that might be true. But that's all right. Old school's playing along anyway, so we're all having a good time, and that's all that matters. But anyway, be sure to check that out. That's super cool on the Price is Right as what's going on, as the vehicles they used to give away for prizes. And I'm sure if you Google some of that stuff, there's a lot more out there on it. Blake, what is the price for 83 Malibu two-door frame, front suspension, deck lid, shell? You just have to give me a call and go through all the details on that, Blake. I don't have any 83 two-doors anyway, but I've got some two-door Malibus, but no 83s right now. So what's up next? The new feature. We added it last week. So far, we had good response from it. If you guys change your mind, let me know. We can take it out. We can add to it. We can do whatever we want. This is our deal. It's whatever we decide is what we'll do. So if you weren't here last week, we added a new feature that's going to be a badge, emblem, or ornament off of some sort of an old vehicle. And we'll talk a little bit about the company or the model or something specific to do with that badge, ornament, or emblem. Obviously, I've got tons of the old enamel radiator badges from the 20s and 30s. I've got boxes and boxes and boxes of hood ornaments, boxes and boxes of emblems. So that's right, number one, right, badge engineering. That's right. So we're gonna, I got another one ready for tonight. If you guys change your mind and you don't like it, just tell me. We'll scratch it out and we'll try to think of something different. If we continue to keep doing it and having fun with it, we'll keep doing it. So tonight, we're going to check out a super cool one. This is a really great piece, and I had to pay up for this one, but it's gorgeous. It's such a great piece. My daughter even put it on its own stained wooden block. But it's a beautiful piece, great color, very, very minimal chipping in it. Cameron's got a GM fridge emblem. I've seen those before too, as well as the Nash Kelvinator fridges. So number one says this segment needs a sound effect. Okay, maybe we can figure out a sound effect for the badge. But here it is. The badge tonight, Indiana Motor Trucks. Beautiful piece. It's got a tiny bit of chipping up here, but great color and really an amazing, amazing piece. This came out of, and I don't know if I've told the story before. It depends on if some of you probably haven't heard it. A few years ago, we met a guy down by Joplin, Missouri, who was helping a family sell off their dad's collection. And their dad was in his 90s. And when he was a kid, back in the 30s and 40s, his dad had a salvage yard, which also covered, obviously, the scrap drives of World War II. So he saved all of the badges and all the license plates off of all these cars that went through that salvage yard when he was a kid. So this is where that came from. This is completely original, never been restored. Nothing's been, a few little chips up here. All we did is my daughter cut this board to the size, stained it, and mounted it on there. And it is a great piece. So what's Indiana Motor Trucks? I didn't know a lot about them. I looked them up. I Wikipedia'd it, got a little bit of facts on them, and we'll go through it real quick. So we get a little bit of a history on the Indiana Motor Truck Company. Obviously, back in that time, there were manufacturers everywhere, hundreds and hundreds of manufacturers, cars, trucks. It is oak. I don't remember what kind of oak, but yes, Cameron, it is oak that it is on. But one company that found relative prosperity during that time was the Indiana Truck Corporation, founded and based in Marion, Indiana. From 1910 to 1933, Indiana trucks were manufactured in Marion for both commercial and personal use. They did have contracts during World War I, which obviously boosted their production. And then as the 20s came along and the highway system started coming together, obviously there's a lot of people that sold a lot of vehicles from all these tiny companies just because people were starting to get used to them. Early years, what became the Indiana Truck Company actually started out by making bedsteads. It says bedsteads. I assume that's beds. In 1898, when Marion manufacturers George Harwood and Charles Barley formed a partnership, the company was called Marion Iron and Brass Bed Company. The first decade of the 20th century, as the auto industry was starting to boom, these guys figured, hey, shoot, we can probably make trucks too. So one interesting fact in this article is what they said. Now, this is Wikipedia. This may not be exactly true, but it does state that in 1895, there were approximately 300 motor vehicles in operation in the United States. 300 in the United States. 10 years later, that number had risen to around 78,000. That's how fast this industry was happening at the turn of the last century. D-Man, insane collection, but yeah, insane is an understatement. The stuff that we've got, the badges that I've got to show you guys over the next coming months, stuff I'd never even heard of till I picked the badge up and held it in my hand. So that's another cool reason I wanted to do this segment is I want to learn more about it. And if you want to see the train that came out of that collection, an absolutely insane steam train. If you're a train guy, I'm not a train guy, love this train. I got the video on YouTube on the train that came out of this collection. I think that's big. It's monstrous. It's like 4 feet long. It was originally live steam. Check that out. It's super cool. Let's see. Yeah, that's right, Cameron. A lot of those companies did start dying out in the 20s. Some of them were gone in the teens already. Fresh News says in 1943, Volvo released a wife's choice car. What was the bonus add-on? That I don't know. I have enough trouble keeping up with all the different American manufacturers back then. The Swedish stuff, the European stuff, I know a little bit about here and there, but not a ton. But the Indiana Motor Truck Company, they made their first truck. The first truck that they made completely was in 1910. I'm sure some of their prototypes had pieces from other companies, but their first in-house truck was released in 1910. In 1911, they changed its name to the Harwood Barley Manufacturing Company and devoted itself to the production of trucks along with beds. So they kept the bed division, but they completely had a whole division just on trucks. Alan, North Carolina, apparently seen the train video because he said it's pretty cool. He likes it too. So they started they shifted production heavy to trucks in the early teens. Fresh News says that they had an oven in it so that the wife could cook. Never heard that. Sounds kind of interesting. Something I've never heard of with the Volvos back in the 40s. But to help promote the Indiana trucks, the company published a list titled 39 Reasons Why You Should Sell Indiana Trucks. Because at that time, companies were still trying to prove that cars and trucks were better choices than horses and wagons. And it's kind of weird to think about that in today's world, that even though production was ramping up all across the country, there's still a lot of people that had not bought into the concept of motorized vehicles. In 2021, how many were tuning in for Volvo trivia? I don't know, but it's interesting. It's still interesting car stuff. So, like Dan says, and now we text and drive. So they had this company, these reasons to, try to convince people that motor vehicles were actually better. And they said in their booklet that there's only been 2 advances made in the delivery of merchandise from the time of the oxen, from the oxen to the horse, and now to Indiana motor trucks. Indiana trucks increased production and expanded business from 1914 to 1926. One reason being World War I and the contracts for the military contracts. It says that Indiana trucks produced 475 Liberty trucks in 1917 and 1918 for the war effort. In 1918, you could get a Model T 1-ton Indiana truck. You could get a Model T, a Model D 2-ton. You could get a Model L 5-ton. So they were really, they weren't doing cars, but they were covering all aspects of the truck market. In 1917, they did reorganize as the Indiana Truck Corporation. And in 1925, they owned 14 depots across the country for shipping these trucks out. In 1925, the company claimed to be one of the most successful manufacturers of high-grade motor trucks in the country and thrived throughout the 20s. However, it was the end of an era for independence for the Indiana Motor Truck Company, Indiana Truck Corporation, as Brockway took over them in 1928. Brockway, some other super cool trucks that, you do some research. Brockway made some really neat stuff back in the day as well. They did keep the name Indiana Truck Corporation because of their reputation, and continue to operate out of the Marion factory, and actually got up to where they were producing 16 different models of trucks. So really trying to cover all the bases in the truck world. Dan says they made trucks in Defiance, Ohio too. They made cars and trucks just about everywhere. About every state had a manufacturing plant somewhere. In 1932, Brockway became a subsidiary of the White Corporation. However, they did continue to produce trucks under the Indiana name until 1939 due to their reputation of quality trucks throughout the teens and 20s. So anyway, there again, kind of a little bit of a history lesson, which is the purpose of this stuff, especially some of these badges of vehicles we've never heard of before. Love this piece. Beautiful piece. What you off of, I don't know for sure. Cameron says white steam cars. Probably, I would imagine that was all part of it, and then probably went into white tractors, white trucks. I'm guessing that all came out of the white steam cars, but I'm not 100% sure. Number one, the railroads made it easier to build cars in any state. That's right. They could ship them anywhere. What year's this badge off of? Chopper 1 made it tonight. Glad you made it tonight. Not sure. I did find some pictures of a restored 1925 Indiana motor truck that did have a badge very, very similar to this. And I would get, and they probably used it for several years. So mid-20s, late 20s, maybe up even into the 30s a little bit. So I'm going to peg this badge. We'll throw a dart at late 20s era. So considering it's almost 100 years old, it still looks pretty amazing. And I'm super happy to have it in our collection. So Australian historic vehicle enthusiast loves the show. Glad you made it tonight. I assume you must be based out of down under. So it's probably Monday there, I'm guessing. But glad you made it tonight. Thanks for stopping by and thanks for participating. So anyway, the Indiana Truck Corporation, Indiana Motor Trucks. That's what I know now, but now know about them. Hopefully you know a little bit more about them, and we got to check out a cool badge. So who's ready for tonight's magazine? Tonight, we're going to go back to a motor trend from October of 1979, introducing the 1980 new cars. Kind of some neat stuff in here. Great looking at these motor trends that were current for the time and looking back at them with 2020 hindsight. So Cameron says he guesses he's ready. So Chopper 1's in. Number 1 says, what's a historic Australian vehicle? A paddy wagon? I'm not sure. I don't know how long they made Holdens over there for a really long time. So, but I don't know how early they started, but let's get into the October 1979 issue of Motor Trend, starting off with, as we usually do on the Motor Trends, the Detroit Report. Old school. Nowadays, it's Engine Trend magazine. I don't know if we've got any comments feeding on Facebook or not. I have not had anything pop up on Facebook in quite some time. We may have some feed issues again, error messages. If you are on the Nobody's Show page on Facebook, I do not see those comments. I can share the video to that page, but those comments are feeding to that page. Last week was the first time I was able to do that due to a new format on Facebook. So if you're on the Nobody's Show page on Facebook, Nobody's Show on YouTube is right here in front of me. Nobody's Show on Facebook, I cannot get to those comments. after we got done last week, after the first time I tried it, there were several comments on that page that I can't see while we're live. So if you want to comment, please jump over to the Nobody Else's Auto page or the Nobody Show page on YouTube. So Cameron says he likes the barn finds. Yep, those are always a good time. Number one says, get a glass and some ice. 1980 is going to have some wild turkey. There's a slight possibility there's one of those ads in this magazine. So Joe says Facebook is working okay for him. So hopefully it is still hanging in there. Vic's on, so maybe we're ticking along. So it just hasn't been feeding anything. So hopefully we don't have a bunch of stuff hung up, because that's happened too on Facebook. Not so much as YouTube, but Facebook, I'll go 10 or 15 minutes with no comments fed. And then we get done. I shut everything down. I go back and refresh the page, and the comments go up by like 16 comments. So like instantly, because they were all pent up somewhere in there. So hopefully hopefully it's ticking along. But anyway, the Detroit report in the October 79 issue of Motor Trend. This article here was pretty interesting, talking about turbo Chevys, which we do know there were a few turbo Chevys. They did make some turbo Monte Carlos and things like that, but Chevrolet never utilized the turbo engine setup near like what Buick did or Pontiac did. But this article talks about some of the Chevy tests, even in a Blazer. They put a 6-cylinder in a Blazer with a turbocharger, and they said it ran comparable to a 307 V8. They tried them in Corvettes. They tried them in Camaros. So they tried a lot of different things back in that day, but never actually utilized the platform, obviously near to the extent that Buick did, or even to a certain extent what Pontiac did. So another interesting thing that was coming out at this time, and there is actually another Motor Trend I almost grabbed tonight, and I didn't, and there's a reason I didn't. More on the K car right over here. More on the K car Chrysler. The K-body cars, direct replacements for the Aspen and Valari line, will use the corporate 2.2-liter 4-cylinder and 4-speed manual transmission as standard. A modified version of the Omni Horizon automatic transaxle will be fitted as optional. Production for the 1981 model year is imminent. Now, the K car obviously became a legendary platform, a savior platform, and obviously this is the rumors, the rumblings. This is still in 79. That they were going to be on the market in 81. I did see a Motor Trend with that, what talks about the K cars, and I know the K cars, a lot of people laugh at them. However, they did save Chrysler. The platform worked. It did. It just flat worked. Iacocca put that thing together. It worked. They built a minivan off of it. They did so many things with that platform that it actually is amazing what they did accomplish with it. Now, there's a reason that I didn't pull that K-Car magazine, and we will look at it in the near future. There's something I want to find, and all I've got of it is a copy. I don't have the original, but I have a copy that goes along with what those K-Car did for Chrysler. I think it's at home in the office. I'm going to find it. When I find it, whether it's next week or a couple weeks, we're going to look at K-Cars, believe it or not, because they are very, very historically significant in the automotive world, but I've got a really cool piece of history that goes with them that I want to do when we do that. Elle in North Carolina, was it just me or was that a dark year? His parents were looking at a Datsun 510. I don't know. We look back now, and there's a lot of those cars are getting super popular now. Big job. That's right. Thanks to Iacocca. Number one, Darts, K-Cars, and Neons. Chrysler dominated the small car market from the 60s to the 2000s. And that is a good point. You're right. The Dart A-body platform, the K-Car platform up into the Neons, then when the Neons hit in the early to mid-90s, they were huge. So those are some good points. Another thing that was very interesting in the Detroit report, and I'm going to let you read the title here. Chopper 1, my parents had a K-Car and an Omni. So there again. Look right here, if we can read the title, the smart car is almost here. Well, we've got smart cars now, actual smart cars. They weren't thinking about those cars at that point. I wondered what they were talking about in this article. So I skimmed it real quick. Martin Cesario is a vice president of General Motors, and in his address to the Automotive World Congress, he spoke of the very near future. He spoke of the automobile and the electronic brain that will be implemented into each and every one. Most new cars have them now as an efficient way of controlling exhaust pollution. The best way to requirements at present is with a catalytic converter and electronically controlled fuel metering. Other control functions that can be stored in the computer are electronic spark timing, idle speed control, canister purge, air control, knock limiting, and knock limiting, a phase already in use on the turbocharged Buick engines. Now, when we think about that and we look back at what happened back then, and it made me think, and as soon as I read that, I got to thinking, so I went and took a picture of it. If you guys can see that, my phone's going to cooperate, which it is not, but that is the turbo brain box on my Buick Regal. They had that mounted right on top of the fan shroud to help control spark knock on those early turbo Buicks. Let's see. Cameron says ugly ones now. Chris says Kmart gave away K cars in the fall of '80. You filled out an entry form for the drawing. That I don't remember, but that would be an interesting topic too to find that out. Cameron says no one in his family ever had a K car. But further use of an onboard computer, says Cesario, could provide a control system for upshift, downshift, torque and torque converter lockup points. So all of this stuff, that we know today is extremely commonplace to the point where there's multiple computers on the bus system talking back and forth in every single vehicle on the road. And they're talking about, a whole, this was aliens and spacecraft at this point, that it was going to be able to do all this stuff. Where today, 40 years later, everything's got it, all of it. And but there again, hindsight's 2020 that they were talking about this and people couldn't hardly believe what he was talking about, that this was possible. And we know now that in 80 and a half, GM did go to starting to get into electronically controlled carburetors and things like that. So this was only 2 years off before we started really seeing the introduction of some of this stuff. Let's skip forward a few pages and catch a few more of these articles, since that was about them. Those were the highlights of the Detroit report. But one of the cars they did feature this month was the 1980 Corvette. One nice full color picture. There again, still not a lot of color. One full color picture of the yellow 1980 Corvette for this feature. Since this is Motor Trend, we did have test data on it. This was an L82 car. Obviously, the L48 was the base car. The L82 was the performance version of it. This car did have a 4-speed manual in it. And since this was the L82 performance model, for whatever that was worth, in 1980, they still weren't exactly a barn burner flying through the quarter mile in 16.18 seconds at 85 miles an hour. So, it was a 350, but it did have a 4-speed. They just were not rocket ships. They were nice cruisers, but they were not rocket ships. Cameron says they cheaped out on the ink. Yeah. Back then, color was not that common. And we look at a lot of these old magazines, and color was not extremely common. Jason had an 85 Aries. Not exactly a chick magnet, but it beat walking. So, yeah, there's definitely some truth to that, too. And that's why a lot of people didn't like the K cars. They were not the most attractive car in the world, but they did do a miraculous thing for Chrysler. Next article we're going to check out, this also has a color feature to start off with, is the Dodge Murata. It's also a car you don't hear about a lot. This was a sporty coupe that they were trying to promote and try to market. They were a pretty neat car. They were, for the time, they had pretty good styling. That nose is obviously very unique, very crisp, clear-cut lines. And really, it's got, there again, black and white pictures, but when we look at these other pictures they had posted, it had sporty wheels, it had bucket seats, floor shift, gauges. For the day, for what they had to work with, this was a fairly sporty car. They just never really caught on and never really took off. Number one, no one ever owned a K car. They were all leased for $49 down to $49 a month. So there could be some truth to that too. So the Murata, the road test data on this Murata was equipped with a 360, so it did still have a 360 V8 in it. Automatic, 4-barrel carburetor. And this thing, obviously not a rocket ship either. These were more of a kind of a luxury coupe, more so than a performance car, but it was kind of a cool car. 1784 the quarter mile at 79 miles an hour. So Cameron likes the style, very clean. Yeah, it is clean. So that was another car that stood out that was definitely different. Now, the article on the 1980s cars, obviously, like we talked about on the cover, 1980 new cars. So when I got to the segment on the 1980 new cars, it kind of took me back. I kind of had to study it for a little bit, the way the article was put together. Number one, those Muratas look pretty deadly as lowriders. Never seen a lowrider Murata. Never seen a lowrider Murata. But they probably would, clean and to the point. So they probably would look pretty good. But the 1980 cars says cleaner, lighter, and able to pass more gas pumps than ever before, basing the article on fuel economy. And that's literally how they put the entire article together, starting with 45 miles per gallon. And then they worked their way backwards based on mile per gallon through all of the new cars for that year. 45 mile per gallon. The only thing they had listed in that category was the VW Rabbit. And it just kept backing down and backing down. And it was really, really weird to study a new car article based off of that. Number one says, say lowrider Murata 10 times. That's a good point because I already bumbled it once. Elva, North Carolina. In Maine, the minivan was everywhere and people loved them. That's true. Classic Ride Society from Texas is on. Glad you made it. So it was really weird that nothing was sorted by manufacturer. Nothing was sorted by make. It was all thrown out there based on mile per gallon. And it actually kind of carried on and on all the way back several pages. We got to skip over some stuff that we'll get back to. And it just keeps working its way back further and further, completely on mile per gallon. So that was kind of weird that everything was just strictly on mile per gallon. We get back to 20 mile per gallon. We get to the Firebird. And we get to, Granadas, Aspens, because some of that stuff was still V8 based. So when we back up to the mile per gallon stuff, or based on mile per gallon, of course, you're going to get worse by the time, you're going to get worse mile per gallon to get to the cooler cars, as all. So that's kind of the way it kept ticking back, and we'll catch a few more of these. There's so much stuff here that it's tough to get it all in. Obviously, as we get back into the teens on mile per gallon, we get back to 15 mile per gallon. There we've got Porsche, Ferrari, the performance stuff, the sportier stuff. D-Man's Garage, Dodge minivan owners drive like maniacs. And they even back up all the way to 10 mile per gallon. That's where they ended up at, which covers, some of the really high-end stuff, Rolls-Royce, Jaguar, things like that, back to where mile per gallon really didn't matter. So it was really weird to have the entire article written around mile per gallon. So I thought that was kind of odd. Made it actually kind of tough to follow because it was just all over the board based on mile per gallon. Vic, wasn't late 70s when the oil embargo was happening? I think that was towards the end of it. It actually happened a little earlier in the 70s. I'm actually reading an article right now in the Wheels magazine, which is put out by the American Truck Historical Society. If you guys like trucks, definitely check out the ATHS. But they have a great article, and I'm right in the middle of it. I'm not done yet, about how the 70s, including the oil embargo and a lot of the government mandates because of the oil embargo, affected the trucking industry. So it started earlier in the earlier 70s. 73, 74, somewhere around in there. But we were still feeling the effects of it at that point, and I think that's why this article was written the way it was. Kenny says his first car was a 77 Granada. So, what else we got cool to check out? One more thing, or another car we're going to look at. They have a deal in Motor Trend in this era called Retrospect, which I'll usually skip over. Joe says 1973 was when the oil embargo hit. So Cameron says that hurt Detroit. Yes, it did. That affected all types of vehicle manufacturers. The retrospect part of these motor trends of this era, I typically skip over, except this week I thought we'd look at it real quick just because of the conversation we had last week about the dual Ghia that sold at worldwide auctions. The retrospect in this month's issue of Motor Trend was the 1961 Chrysler Ghia, an Italian-bodied car, beautiful car. Hope you guys can see it with the reflection, but a really neat car there, something kind of different, something you really don't see. But once again, you know, the beautiful Italian design with the American running gear from Chrysler and made a neat car. So, Kevin, the LeBaron was a K car, and it was very successful. Yeah, they did a lot of stuff with the 80s and all that stuff. It pretty amazing what that platform did. Even though a lot of people knocked it, it did a lot of amazing stuff. One more thing we want to check out, and then we're going to check out some ads, was the competition report in the back. One thing that stood out for the competition report to me was that a rendering of a new NASCAR of the 1980 Thunderbird, when the Thunderbird was downsized, and this was a rendering of Bobby Allison's car, and this was actually back when they made stock cars out of stock cars. So that's why it stood out. We can see the artist's rendering of it as they went to the smaller Thunderbird and were getting these cars ready for stock car racing. So that was in the competition report. And once again, it takes us back to when NASCAR stock car racing ran stock cars and modified them for racing. Old School even saw a K car today driving. That was kind of a flashback probably. Cameron has a model of it at home. That's always good. Love models and love toys. So anyway, that kind of stood out. Cameron says Thunderbird or Blunderbird. You know, those early 80s Thunderbirds never really did make a niche for themselves, but there again, that's what they had for stock car racing. So that's what the difference was as they started transitioning to those from the big bird to the small bird. So that's they were showing the transition in the renderings. William says, I'll beat you guys with his first car owned. 64 Fairlane, inline six, 2-speed automatic, no power steering or brakes. Yeah, back then there was a lot of that stuff out there that didn't have a lot of options, though, because back then things were basic transportation. So, who's ready to catch some ads? Let's check out the ads from the October 1979 Motor Trend, obviously featuring 1980 model year vehicles. And inside the front cover, great looking color ad from Ford. Remember, 1979 was the last year for that body style of Ford pickup. 1980, it was redesigned. So they did have a nice big 2-page inside cover full color ad for the new Ford pickups. Both with your basic half-ton long bed. Down here we show the 1-ton dually as well as the Super Cab pickup for 1980. Great ad, beautiful color, really stands out as soon as you flip open the cover. That's right, number one. Number one already knows what's coming because he knows what era this magazine is from. So let's go ahead and get to it. It's coming up. It's real early in the magazine. On page number 7, we get to see our regular friend, the iconic Wild Turkey. Like we've talked about every time, I always, as a kid, I remember seeing this picture. Always remember this picture in every car magazine I ever remember looking at as a little kid because of that picture of the Wild Turkey. So you're right, number one. There's the Wild Turkey, as we always catch when we catch a magazine from the late 70s because it was in every single one. Cameron's first car was a 36 Pontiac with optional frame and body delete. So it was probably a kind of a go-kart type car or something, I'm guessing. What's up next? Let's flip forward a couple more pages to another definitely late 70s car accessory, the Western Wheel Company, showing what Western wire spoke wheels on a little 280Z or something like that. So obviously something extremely common in the 70s. Once again, not quite very popular today. In 1979, pretty big deal. So number one has an outstanding idea. I love it. I'm all for it. I want the image from the Wild Turkey ad as a mural on a van. Great idea. Love the idea. Cameron says, wasn't much left of his 36 Pontiac. Kevin says, hunting season is coming up. That's true. Vic says between 1979 and 1980 is when gas prices pushed past the dollar mark. And that could be very true. I don't remember. I was too young to remember that stuff. But that's probably, I'm guessing you're pretty right. You're pretty close. This was right in that time when it was when there was times people did see dollar gas. So I bet you're right, Vic, on that part. Let's see. Jason says, cool idea too. Yeah, definitely. Let's see what else we got coming up here in ads. Champion Spark Plugs had a very interesting ad. Not really sure where they were going with it, other than maybe diversity is in their product. William says he'd love to see that on a van too. Number one, I think you started a project here. Everybody's excited about your wild turkey on a van. Can you spot the similarity between a Thunderbird and a home light chainsaw? Had a chainsaw land on the hood of a Thunderbird. Champion spark plug ads. I'm guessing it was to show the diversity of their products that they had spark plugs for everything. I don't know why else you'd have a chainsaw laying on the hood of a Thunderbird. So I'm not really sure where they were going with that, other than diversity of their products. Something else that was kind of interesting. When you say you're fed up with hauling ice, the Coolatron was a 12-volt refrigerator that you could carry with you. Obviously, never really took off. Had a full-page black and white ad in this issue, but it was supposedly could plug into 12-volt and keep everything ice cold, just like a miniature ice box. But not something that obviously really caught on or blew up at that point. Obviously, we do have the technology to do it today, but definitely back then it never really caught on. William, 1998, cheap gas for a buck for me. Let's see, what else do we have for ads to check out? Flip back here a few more pages. And once again, we've caught a few of these back from the 70s. One of the few parts chains still in existence as it was back then is NAPA, National Auto Parts Association, I think. Still is the iconic blue and gold symbol. One of the few chains that still exists as they were back then, with all the, the conglomeration, the buyouts, and all the big corporations that have taken over. Not a lot left, but Napa's still out there. Still has the iconic "Let Your Fingers Do the Walking" to find them in the phone book symbol in the lower corner even. Let's see. Some comments we missed here. Cameron says he likes the old comics. That's true. There was some really funky stuff in old comic books. That's true. Big Job says his buddy had a wild turkey through his windshield. D-Man Garage, his first car was a 78 Toyota Celica for $400. Had a blown head gasket. His first major repair. Don, a lot of guys ran Western wheels on old F-100s and disco era vans. Yeah, that's why that add up, because Western was a big deal. Western wheels were styling back in the day, and that's another good point. They were on pickups, they were on vans, everything. So that's true, and that's why I brought it up, because it was such an iconic wheel for that era. What else do we have? A couple more. This is an ad. This is a car ad. Not something we typically look at because it's foreign, but it was such a weird ad I had to bring it up. About a Peugeot. The Peugeot Diesel. Nothing is as strong as an idea that has come on the Peugeot Diesel. I get into a lot of this because I don't know much about them. I don't deal with foreign cars. Everything I do is American. But the Peugeot Diesel ad just really stood out to me, so I thought we'd go ahead and take a look at it. Cameron says he saw gas in Canada for 61 cents a gallon. That would be it during COVID up in Canada. I wish that some of that would happen down here, but probably not. A couple more ads we're going to catch real quick, and then we're going to keep moving forward here. Something else from the 70s, definitely. The Escort radar detector. I'm sure some of you guys probably remember these. Back in the day, they were a pretty big deal. This was new technology. Sometimes worked, sometimes didn't work. But there again, we're looking back in time with 2020 hindsight at the technology of the day, and I thought that Escort radar detector was a really great piece. Let's see. William says, I think lowriders still run Western wheels, and they may. I don't know. I'm not sure. L says, please skip the Lacar. No Lacar in here. Oh, then one says 61 cents a liter, which is a quarter gallon, so not 61 cents a gallon. That makes more sense. Okay. 61 cents a liter in Canada. It's all different to me trying to learn about that stuff. So one more ad that we're going to look at. We caught a glimpse of this as we were flipping through the 1980 cars. It was so great. It was even color. And everybody remembers things. I mean, about everybody on here is going to remember these things. Sport grips. The Rainbow Sweepstakes for the sport grips. 212 duplicate prizes for men and women. Chances to win big. Now, sport grips. These were the steering wheel covers that had the plastic type thread. You wrapped it around, and then you wrap the thread all the way around your steering wheel. And there it is. This is their big contest. And they're rainbows. They made them in all these different colors. I'm going to try to show you close to see if you guys can see all the little holes in them and remember these things that wrapped around your steering wheel. You know, back then, most steering wheels were hard plastic. This kind of gave you a soft, grip around it for the sport grip for steering wheels. Thought that was so great. I've seen thousands of these things. This was their big contest they were having. So I thought that ad was definitely worth checking out. Let's see. What are they giving away? Grand prizes. A pair of 280Zs. The 280Zs in the top was the grand prize. One for him, one for her. Second prize, Toshiba AC/DC portable color TV. Third prizes, Canon 35mm cameras. Fourth prizes, Sanyo AM/FM portable stereo, basically like a boom box. And fifth prizes were sport grip steering wheel covers. So obviously, Kevin remembers them. Yep. Like I said, I know a lot of us do. That's why that ad stood out to me and really popped when I seen it. So that's what we've got for the 1980 new cars in the October 1979 issue of Motor Trend. Tonight's magazine. Big job. Kmart steering wheel, blue light specials. Yeah, I remember the blue light specials too. So that's what we had for a magazine tonight. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Always something different, always something cool. You never know what's going to pop up unless it's from 1975 and 1983, and there's probably going to be a Wild Turkey ad in it. So what's next? Time for some trivia. Time to talk about the raffle. Time to talk about some new inventory and next week's videos. Australian historic vehicle enthusiast, $1.60 a liter here in Australia. I think that CL, I don't know if that's a liter or not in Australia. I'm not sure what measurements they go by. Vic says, and made his steering wheel non-sticky. Yeah, that's true, because some of those earlier rubber steering wheels that's exactly right. They were already getting goopy back then, so you had to put a cover on them. It's another great point, Vic, that I hadn't thought about. So anyway, time for some trivia. Time to talk about the new raffle. On trivia, Lee was our winner last week, so Lee is out this week. Everything is shipped. I know some of you guys haven't gotten it yet. Everything is shipped except a can for Jason Withrow. Jason, I need your address. I went through all my paperwork, and I know you've been in all the raffles, but when you paid through PayPal, it doesn't populate your address. So apparently last time you won, you must have called me and I wrote it on a note and taped it to the box. So the only thing that I've still got here from the last couple of weeks is a can for Jason Withrow. If you want to give me a call, then I can get that one on the way to you. William misses Kmart too. So tonight we're going to give away another can from our good friend Mike Shook at Auto Artistry. This is another one of the gold Phillips cans. There was about 10 or 15 of those in the tub, so I've been kind of spacing them out. This is another one. Some of you guys have won this one. If you've already gotten it, maybe you can let somebody else win tonight. But we're going to give another one of these away. Got Mike's card on top. Be sure to check him out, autoartistry.com or Auto Artistry on Facebook. Check out some of the cool builds they do over there. He did bring me a whole tub of cans, and there are multiple different ones. There just happens to be about 10 or 15 of these. So I've been kind of spacing them out. It's probably been about a month since we gave one away. But that's what we're going to give away tonight. Okay, Australian historic vehicle enthusiast. It's cents per liter. Okay, and that's for premium. Okay, so that's like I said. I'm trying to put all that stuff together. Big Job says till the string started unraveling on your steering wheel cover, and then it was a mess. That's another good point. Okay, Jason, as long as you're on and yeah, that's fine. Just give me a shout whenever you get a minute. No problem. Chingun likes the rainbow bread size. He lives near the old factory in Texas. I actually like rainbow bread stuff. That's another reason I've got that up here. The building I'm in right now was actually a rainbow bread warehouse for several years. It did still have an old faded painted sign on the front when I got the building, which I took down, and it's hanging in the shop. When we do Toy Tuesday next week, remind me, I'll point it out to you. It's hanging up next to the light up Plymouth sign, and we can look at that too. But yeah, that's a super cool door push. I've got 2 of the actual bread loaf door pushes. They're great pieces. So anyway, trivia this week for the Trop Arctic Phillips 66 oil can. When we did the video on the 1974 Camaro, after I put it up on the lift, we all got to take a good look at it. Sam's got a metal root sign. Unsure if it's just, yeah, and that's another thing about a lot of those highway signs anymore. A lot of them are souvenir pieces. They're cool when you find originals, but a lot of them are souvenir pieces. So D-Man says South Florida right now is $2.99 a gallon. That's about what it is here in gas. I think it's around $3 about everywhere per gallon in the States for our non-U.S. friends that are on with us. But for tonight's Phillips 66 oil can, we did the video on the 74 Camaro since I'm all excited about it. And I was excited about it anyway. After Hot Rod Magazine ran the feature on it, after I got that, I decided to get it out of the other shop. I got it over into this shop, got it up on the lift. So we kind of looked the car over, showed you underneath the car and a lot of the things that we discovered about it and how original the car was. We did point out one thing underneath the car that was actually dated and had a date on it. What piece was that we looked underneath that actually had a specific date? You couldn't really see the date in the video, so I didn't want to make the date the question, but what was the piece? I'll keep an eye on both formats as we move forward for tonight's winner. And we'll start talking about the raffle for this month with the toy. Nope, it wasn't the belt. It wasn't the belts that were dated. That's what we keep getting is the belts, but they weren't dated. The raffle this month is going to be for the super cool truck that we looked at last week. A Wyandotte truck, tractor, and trailer. Still watching both formats. Still don't have a correct answer. As I put the truck together so we can take a good look at it here. It's not the belts. It's not the hoses. But here is the raffle on the Wyandotte truck. Trying to keep it all squared up here. Nothing yet. I'm still watching. Don't have anything yet. But we'll take a little better look at the truck while we're watching comments. Lots of guesses popping up, but nothing yet. I'm not getting anything on Facebook guess-wise. If you're trying to guess on Facebook, it is not feeding me and have not seen anything as of yet. But here's the Wyandotte tractor we looked at last week. This thing was played with. It was loved. When this was there we got Dan got it. It was the motor mounts. That's right. So Dan's our winner tonight. Make a note of that. The motor mounts are actually dated from 1974. Yeah, I mean you guys were all around it, that's for sure. But yes, the motor mounts actually had a June of 74 date still stamped in them. So that's what I'm so excited about that car. That car is so original. And that's what's so great about it. Just that she didn't get a chance to watch the video. So, and a lot of that other stuff, radiator, things, a lot of those things, other things you guys were guessing probably are still date correct. But the piece that I could plainly see, we couldn't see it real clear on the video to get the whole date on it. That's why I didn't ask for the exact date. But we did point it out and talk about it, is the actual motor mounts still have the date stamped in them. The radiator, the belts had part numbers on them, GM part numbers, but not dates. So, as I get more into that car, as far as checking fuel system, cooling system, things like that. We'll look at some more of that stuff. Big Job's got a lighted Borden's ice cream sign in his kitchen above the fridge. Yeah, those are great. I love ice cream signs too. I've got a lot of ice cream signs. Old school was closed. Like I said, there was a lot of stuff bouncing around that. And that's right. Ellen, North Carolina says it does have a race week trailer hitch on it. It does have a trailer hitch on it. Vic guessed the battery, but there's not a battery in that car right now. Thankfully, they did pull the battery out of that car when they did put it in storage almost 40 years ago. So, Kenny said he meant motor mount. He said frame mount. That's what threw me off, and he meant motor mount. Okay, that's what. Okay, so Kenny was close too. We just didn't quite realize it. But that's all right. It's all in good fun. We're all here to have a good time. And as I get more into that, we'll get more into checking some of the details of that car out now that it's up on the lift. Like I said, I soaked down all the the fuel tank strap bolt, dropped the tank out of it, and things like that. So, but anyway, so I got you down. You might give me a shout tomorrow to make sure I've got your address and double check. We'll get this can out to you. Back to the Wyandotte truck, the raffle this month. Like we talked about last week, here's the trailer that's going to go with it. Wyandotte plaques on both sides. This truck and trailer, I'm not even 100% sure match set. This is how I got it. They do both have yellow bottoms, so they could be. But what was so cool about this truck, like we talked about, is back in this time, back in the 50s, back when these toys were made, kids didn't have the toys like they have now. They didn't have so much stuff. A lot of kids have more toys. They can't even walk through their bedroom anymore. This truck back in its day, I mean, these toys were cherished. These kids had one or two toys to play with. Getting a truck like this, I mean, this was like a highlight of a Christmas for some kid probably. So even though it's a little rougher, I'm excited to share it with you, and I'm excited to be able to send this out to somebody to add to their collection where it will once again be cherished and appreciated for what it is. Like we looked at last week, this has had repairs where this windshield post has been re-welded in, things like that. Because back then you didn't throw it all away. You fixed it. You kept playing with it because it's what you had. Sometimes that's all you had. And that's what's great about these toys. Even one that's a little rough around the edges, it shows how much it was loved, how much it was played with. What this meant to some kid on Christmas morning is something that none of us will probably fully comprehend. But it's a great piece that's going to go into somebody's collection. And like we talked about last week, with that, I also got this other trailer. This is also a Wyandotte trailer. We can tell where it had the plaques, but it does not have them. And so that's what I'm going to go ahead and ship this with it. So that way you have your choice of which trailers you want to use when you display it, or maybe get another tractor for it. Scott says, I haven't seen the cars at a 4-speed. No, it is an automatic. It's got 90,000 miles on it. It's in Hot Rod Magazine this month, and I've got, I think, 4 videos of it on YouTube right now, Scott, if you want to check that out on the 74 Z28. Dan says, if Kenny wants it, he can have it. So if Kenny wants it, you can give me a shout and give me your address, Kenny, because Dan says he'll let you have it too if you wanted it. Old school, people appreciated what they had back then, and that's 100% right. That's why, and like we talked about last week, this truck, I really struggled because of the condition. Is this thing good enough? Is it going to be appreciated by somebody that's going to get it? And the more I thought about the group we've got on here, and then the more convinced I was, yes, this is a perfect group for this piece. It will be appreciated for what it is. We can see the little reflectors on it, which were pretty cool. So that's why I did it, because it was appreciated. It needs to be appreciated again. I spent some time, rubbing it out with rubbing compound and waxing it. So it's going to be a great display piece for somebody. Jason says Dad was a hero for those repairs. Right. Because kids didn't have that many toys. If you had a toy, it was special and it meant a lot. So fixing it was a big, big deal. William, just like the Lionel train sets back then. Absolutely. See, David likes it. Old school. His grandparents put plastic over the couch to preserve it. I remember that too at my grandparents' house, having plastic over the couch. So that's definitely a time that has gone by. but it's a time that all of us appreciate. So that's why it's like, man, this is such a great piece, and somebody is really going to dig it and really going to appreciate it. So that's what we've got coming up. The grill shell, the Hutmobile grill shell. Hopefully we still got D-Man on with us. D-Man's Garage on YouTube. Be sure to check him out. He posted a video today of the grill shell that he won last week. So it is hanging in his house right now. He showed it on YouTube. Actually looked like it was hanging right around his thermostat. So appreciate everybody playing last month. We had a great time. The grill shell obviously is in a good home with D-Man. And be sure to check him out, D-Man's Garage on YouTube, and check out the video where where he got the grill shell. He won the grill shell last weekend on last month's raffle. And then Bill got the weight rating tag. It's on the way as well. Speaking of license plates, speaking of the raffle, we'll do another one for the second winner this month. D-Man is on. It's just his battery died, so he's on a different phone or something. This month, we're going to give away another license plate, a full license plate. I actually thought this was new when I grabbed it, but it is not new. It's a 1974 Rush County tag. Literally, I grabbed it out of the box. I thought it was new old stock, but then when I looked close, it had screws put in it, so apparently it was used, probably just on a vehicle that sat in a garage. Fairly low number, 319. So it's going to be the second name that comes out of the big Buick oil can next, or at the end of this month, or first of next month, October 2nd. The second name is going to get a Rush County license plate from 1974. Like I said, I thought it was new when I grabbed it because some of them in that box were. After I washed it, I realized it was not, but still a super cool piece and going to be a nice piece to hang in somebody's man cave. Who's in so far? We had a bunch of you jump in right away on the raffle last week. If you do want to get in, you can PayPal CSE3@cox.net. That number is in the text on all the formats, both YouTube and Facebook. You can mail me a check to get in, just like Bill did. I got his entry today or yesterday in the mail. So he's in. Darren is in. Ronald Walensky, which I believe that's Big Job, is in. Lee is in, and that's who I've got as of right now. Those names are already in the bottom of the big Buick oil can. Everybody I just read off: Bill Wagaman, Darren Ehrlich, Ronald Walensky, and Lee Carr. You are all in as of right now. That's right, James. They were metal toys. They did last, and you could fix them. So Old School says he's ready to get in. So glad everybody is in. And like I said, if you I mean, it's great if you guys from out of the country want to participate in the raffle, just like Old School. You're more than welcome. Just you got to have a way to help figure out how to get it to you. So I know we've obviously got viewers in Australia. We've had viewers all over the country, or all over the world. If you're not in the contiguous 48 states, you're more than welcome to play. But I may need some help figuring out how to get it to you, and I may have to have you help with some of the shipping costs. Just to keep it equal for everybody else that's playing, because these deals, when we do the raffles, they have to sustain themselves. As long as we're getting enough entries to cover what I'm spending to keep it going, but it's not fair to everybody else if I have to spend a fortune on shipping for one person, and then we can't continue doing it for everybody. So, but yeah, I'd love to have you guys in. So Kevin says he sent his in. So. Jason says he'll be in. Jason won the dump truck we gave away a few months ago. He needs this one for his collection as well. So super excited about it. I think it's a great piece. Like I said, I thought it was a little rough, but the more when I started polishing it out with some rubbing compound and waxing it, I started getting more appreciation for it, to the point where I had to remind myself that, hey, dum-dum, you're doing this to give it away. So get it in the office and show it to everybody tonight before you put it on the shelf. So I've got myself committed, just like I had to do on the truck that Jason won. So that's what we've got coming up for the raffle in September. Get your chances for either the truck or the license plate if you're the runner-up. New inventory this week. Had a couple things coming to the yard. Had several things get loaded to the F&E collector for the F&E collector auto auction. Big Job says, as long as it keeps things going, that's what matters. Well, that's what we're trying to do. So a couple cars come into the yard. 2000 Trans Am, obviously a little newer than what we typically mess with, but Obviously, if you've been on her before, you know I'm a Trans Am nut. I just bought the 02 Ram Air WS6 convertible for my collection. Our friend Scott, who hangs out with us on here sometimes, had this car, so I picked it up from him. He was coming through, so he dropped it off the other day. And no, Kevin, have not seen Don. Don't know what. So obviously worried about him, but there ain't nothing I can do. You know, he's a shop cat, and I think he wandered off. And so I don't know. He was been around here for 8 or 9 years. He was getting old. He was losing weight. So I don't really know for sure what happened, but I haven't seen him. So let's see. Oh, William, how much is it to enter? Thanks for bringing that up, because I forgot to mention that. $1 for every chance. You send me $5, you're in the big 5 times, $10, 10 times, $20, 20 times, $50, 50 times, $100, 100 times. Every dollar you send me goes into the big Buick oil can, one time for every dollar. So that's how we do it. It keeps it simple that way, and keeps it fair for everybody. F&E Collector Auto Auction coming up in October. It's not terribly far away. Docket is starting to build. Several cars went up this week, including some pretty cool stuff, especially if you're a Chevy guy. Thanks for the support, guys. A lot of positive comments about just making sure we keep things going. That's what we're trying to do. 1966 Chevy Impala two-door hardtop, nice driver car, good looking car, got a big block in it, something you can go out and cruise and have fun with. 63 Nova patina car. It's just a 4-door, but just a cool little beater. Nova, jump in it, run all over town with it. The guy drives it all the time. Original blue paint, little rust in the fenders, but just a cool little 4-door Nova that you can zip all over with. 66 Bel Air 4-door running driving patina car. 1965 Pontiac Bonneville convertible, looks like a really slick driver. I've not seen that car in person, but the pictures look great. 1946 Chevy 1.5-ton truck, really, really nice looking truck. Red and black, flatbed, sharp truck. If you're an old truck guy, you definitely want to look at that one. And another one for our Chevy fans, 1959 Chevy Bel Air 4-door project car. No motor, but original paint, original patina, very, very solid. A little bit of rust in this car, but it's extremely minimal. So be sure to check that stuff out, feclassiccarauction.com. Those cars are all on there. There will be more stuff going up this week. If you can get out here, we would love to have you on October 2nd here for the auction. If not, if there's something on there that you're interested in, you can bid online through proxybid.com and get registered on there to be ready for the auction. But we would sure love to have you if you can make it. We have a great time that day. We run a ton of cool cars. We got a great barbecue vendor. We have a beer garden. It's a heck of a fun day. You get to see a ton of cool cars. You get to watch them go across the block, and a lot of people get to take one home. So that's right. Nate's got his Cadillac consigned. He can't wait. He's going to be here, and super excited to see that show up. And I had a call on a couple of other 60s Cadillacs that we may get consigned as well, which would be great companion cars to go with your car, Nate. So Jason says, don't forget to hit the like button. Appreciate that, guys. Always appreciate the super chats you guys throw out there. The likes, all that stuff is so great. Big Job says, let's raise $1 million. Okay, I'm not going to argue with that. We can go into some pretty cool stuff with $1 million, though. So be sure to check that out. feclassiccarauction.com is the website. F&E Collector Auto Auction on Facebook and YouTube. Be sure to check that stuff out. Old School is going to sign off. Thanks for being here. Glad you made it. We missed one more new inventory. I got on the F&E stuff and forgot one other car that came in this week. 1957 Oldsmobile 98. Big old 98. It is a 4-door, but this car literally, they pulled it in and shut the key off. I think it's missing like one hubcap, and that's it. I opened the hood, steering, brakes, factory air. Nothing's been touched under the hood. Literally, it looks like they lost the hubcap on the way to where they parked it and shut the key off. So cool car. We'll be having a video coming up on it for sure. Ellen, North Carolina. He's all over the 78 GMC Jimmy. We have a super cool 78 GMC Jimmy listed. They overhauled the motor and tranny. I think they did the tranny. I know they did the motor. Other than that, completely original, fairly low mileage, original paint, original wood grain on the side of it. Super, super cool truck. If you haven't checked that out, be sure to look at it. FEClassicCarAuction.com is where that's all at. So you can check out all the inventory that's on there and keep up with the docket as it builds over the next several weeks as we gear up for the auction on October the 2nd. So going to be an exciting day. Hope to see some of you there. What's coming up for new videos this week? We'll do another Pioneer Auto Show on that great collection. Something else that I'm going to do a video on. Yeah, thanks, Big Job. They call me the host with the most. I don't know if we go quite that far, but we do have a good time. Another video I'm going to try to get done this week that I have not showed you. I've talked about it. Finally, after over a year, I finally have the title on this truck so that it is ready to sell. It's been in my shop for over a year. I've been working around it. It came out of Oklahoma. I got it in on trade, and it had, since it was out of state title, had to get a VIN inspection done, and then Oklahoma didn't have a place for the transaction date on the title, and it was one thing after another after another. I finally have a clean, current Kansas title in my hand for the 1957 Chevy Cameo pickup. So I'm going to get a video done on that. I actually had to roll it out the other day and rinse it off again. It had so much dust on it from sitting here for a year after I cleaned it up a year ago, getting it ready to do a video on. So I'm going to get a video up on the Cameo as well. That is such a great truck. It has such an awesome look to it. Factory sun visor. It's got a V8 in it. I've had it to hit. I can get it to hit on prime gas. I haven't tried to see if I can get all the fuel system hooked up and see if the fuel pump will pick up or not. But I'm going to get a video done on it. It does have a new gas tank in it. I just haven't tried to see if it'll run off of it. The brakes are up on it. It's got new brake hoses on it. I don't know if somebody did all the brakes on it or not, but it's a cool deal. That we're definitely going to be doing a super cool video on that. If you like old trucks, you'll want to check this thing out. You know, it's got the chrome grill, chrome bumper guards, like I said, the factory visor, neat pickup. So anyway, that's what I've got going. That's about what I've got for tonight. I will keep an eye on comments here for the next minute or two as we get ready to wind down. Try to catch anything that anybody forgot about and wants to throw up there real quick before we sign off. Otherwise, stay tuned. We'll see everybody Tuesday evening for Toy Tuesday. I've got some super cool pieces that my dad gave me here recently that we're going to check out Tuesday evening. And as always, have a great time checking out some memorabilia. Then, plus these other videos, we'll get the Pioneer Auto Show up probably tomorrow. I have not shot the Cameo yet, so I need to get that shot. We'll get it up sometime later this week. I need to get the 57 Olds video shot. I need to get the 88 GMCs shot. I need to do a video on the Auto Bianchi yet. I haven't showed you guys the Auto Bianchi yet. The little Italian car that came in on a big load of trucks I bought this spring. Joe's already waiting on the Cameo video. Ellen, North Carolina, 57 truck that have a Pontiac. No, this is a Cameo, so this is the Chevy version of this. The GMC Suburban, and they call it a Suburban. It was a pickup, though. But the GMC Suburban was the equivalent to the Cameo. That and GMC is who used the Pontiac V8. Chevy used their own small block. Now, this pickup actually has supposedly it's a later model, like a late 60s 327 in it. It does have a V8 hood badge on it, so I assume it was originally a V8 truck. But you're on the right track. Just the wrong breed. GMC is who used the Pontiac engine, and that would have been called a Suburban. We actually sold a 55 GMC Suburban at the F&E Collector Auto Auction last year. So, Joe, what color is the Cameo? Blue and white. The bed is all white. I think somebody had to put a replacement bed on it. The truck is blue and white, and the bed's pretty much all white. Other than the fading and the chipping and the scratching, it's got a killer look to it. If you wanted a patina Cameo, I'd slap a little bit of blue on the white parts of the bed, and this thing would be such an awesome driver. It'd be crazy. So, Bill's ready for Toy Tuesday already. So, and Jess is waiting on the Auto Bianchi too. It's a little tiny thing, but it's a neat little car. So anyway, that's what we've got going on. I'll keep an eye on comments for a few more seconds as we wrap up. As always, thanks for swinging by tonight. If you guys didn't come by and hang out, this wouldn't amount to anything. And you guys, the ones that are here, I appreciate your support. Don't always catch all of the comments throughout the week based on all the different formats I post on, plus all of the different Facebook pages that I help out with that I'm administrators on. You know, when I literally go into the email that is attached to my Facebook account, I just just start deleting notifications because there are so many of them. I think there's like 10 Facebook pages I'm admin on, so it's difficult to keep up with all of them. But as always, if you got a specific question, you can always give me a call. Brent says, have a good night from New Mexico. Dan says, Josh, are they still making Ford pickups, or are they shut down because of the chips? Let's see. Jason says his daughter saw it in the Toy Tuesday video. She wants the Cameo. It's for sale. You can own it tomorrow, Jason. Just bring me some money and I'll sign the title over to you. You can load her up. Not a problem. Yes, I do. DBC 105. I do still have the 80 Chevy diesel pickup. It is still here. Australia, it's 11:35 Monday in Australia. It is 8:35 Sunday night here, and we are in the Central Time Zone in the States. So 11:30 on Monday morning in Australia. Elle, had fun tonight. Glad you did. Jess, they are shut down the past 3 weeks and shut down next week still due to the chip shortage at the Ford truck plant in Kansas City. D-Man, have a great week, everyone. Dan says, great show. DBK, give me a call. It's a perfect way to do it. Joe says, cool show tonight. Thanks for being here. Like I said, you guys are the ones that make this happen. You guys make this what it is. I'm the one that gets to sit here and hang out with all of you. So thanks for being here. I appreciate your support. I appreciate you coming by, hanging out with us, and making this what it is. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you Tuesday and on Toy Tuesday Live. We'll get the other videos up and definitely hope to see you all back here, 7 o'clock Central Time, next Sunday night for Sunday Night Live Chat. Thanks for watching, everybody.